The courtroom exploded on Abuja today. Federal High Court Justice James Omotosho has ordered the forcible removal of Nnamdi Kanu, the detained IPOB leader, for being unruly during what was scheduled to be the final judgment delivery.
So what was the core dispute? Well, Kanu insisted the court could not proceed without his final written address, accusing the judge of bias and declaring any judgment a complete rubbish.
But the court cited Kanu's misconduct in previous rulings as justification for proceeding in his absence. This is the breakdown of the facts, the legal reasoning, and the explosive accusations from both sides of the Nigerian state versus Nnamdi Kanu. Welcome to Africa Watch 360, calm, clear, and focused news you can trust. We look deeper, so you understand better.
All right, so to make sense of all this, here's how we're going to break it down for you. First, we'll look at the eruption in the courtroom itself. Then, the history behind this long-running standoff. We'll get into the weeds of the legal arguments, look at the decision to deliver a judgment without the defendant present, and finally, ask what this moment really means.
So let's start right there on November 20th. This was supposed to be it, the final day, the conclusion of a very long and very heated terrorism trial. The court was all set to deliver its final word. But what unfolded was anything but routine.
It all escalated, and it escalated fast. The fuse was lit when Justice Omotosho threw out 3 new motions from Kanu's team, calling them unmeritorious. Right as the judge prepared to give the final verdict, Kanu shot up, arguing they couldn't go on, that he had a right to file a final written argument. Things got loud. He accused the judge of bias, and that was the tipping point. The judge ordered him physically removed from the court, and then the judgment reading began, to an empty defendant's box.
Now you have to understand, that explosion of anger didn't just come out of nowhere. To really get why the tension was so thick in that room, you have to realize this is just the latest chapter in a legal and political saga that's been building for the better part of a decade.
At the very center of it all, you have 2 key figures. First, Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB, an organization the Nigerian government has proscribed. He's the defendant facing these terrorism charges. And on the other side, you have Justice James Omotosho, the judge trying to navigate this legal minefield and deliver a final verdict.
And look, this has been a long and winding road to get here. Kanu was first arrested way back in 2015. Then he was granted bail in 2017 and left the country, which was a whole controversy in itself. His rearrest in 2021 brought him back to Nigeria to stand trial again, all leading up to this single dramatic day in court.
You know, to boil down the core legal problem here, think of it like this. Imagine a village holds a big meeting to vote on a really important project. One key family has been part of every single discussion, but right when it's time for the final vote, they start shouting and causing a scene because they think the vote is going to go against them. So the question for the village elders is, can the vote still happen? That right there is basically the procedural question the court was facing.
But here's where the story gets more interesting. See, this was more than just shouting in a courtroom. It was a clash of 2 very different interpretations of the law. So let's really dig into the legal arguments from both sides.
The whole thing hinges on this document called the final written address. And it's not just a piece of paper. This is a critical legal step. It's the last chance for both sides to sum up all their evidence, connect the dots, and make their absolute best case to the judge. From Kanu's point of view, being denied the chance to file this meant he was being denied the right to be fully heard.
The court, though, came back with a specific law to back up its decision. They pointed to Section 306 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015. Now, this law was written specifically to stop criminal trials from being delayed over and over again. It basically forbids putting a criminal case on hold. The court said this law gave them the power to deny Kanu's motions and move forward.
So what you end up with is this complete legal standoff. On one side, you have Kanu saying the court has no authority, no jurisdiction, to give a judgment without his final argument. His basis is the right to be heard and his accusation of bias. And on the other side, the court says no, the law prevents these kinds of delays, and besides, your own unruly behavior means you've given up your right to be here for it. 2 sides dug in with totally different views of the law.
And that legal standoff, well, it led directly to the day's biggest move, the court deciding to deliver its judgment in absentia. That means with the defendant not even in the room. So let's look at how the judge actually justified taking such a rare step.
All right, let's do a quick recap of that sequence, because the order of events is absolutely crucial here. First, the judge denied the motions. Second, Kanu objected. Third, that objection turned into a direct verbal challenge. Fourth, the judge officially called it misconduct.
5th, he ordered him removed, and only then, 6th, did the judgment proceed. That step-by-step progression is key to understanding the court's reasoning.
And this is the exact principle the judge laid out in the courtroom. He said, and I'm quoting here, "If a defendant misconducts himself or acts in an unruly manner during the course of his trial can be conducted in his absence." So he framed this not as a spur-of-the-moment decision, but as the court using a specific power it has to keep the wheels of justice turning.
The judge also added another layer to it. He brought up history, noting that this kind of behavior from Kanu wasn't a one-off thing. He stated that Kanu had, and again, these are the court's words, exhibited similar behavior several times in the past. This idea of a repeated pattern was used as another piece of justification for the removal.
Okay, so let's take a step back from the drama for a minute. What does this all actually mean? What are the ripple effects of this day for the case, for the region, and for the Nigerian legal system as a whole?
Well, in the short term, the effects are pretty clear. The judgment gets delivered, and a very strong precedent is set for how courts might deal with disruptions in the future. And of course, you're going to see immediate and passionate reactions from all sides. But long term, this is big. It raises fundamental questions about balancing courtroom order against a defendant's rights. And you can bet that the events of this single day will become the foundation for future legal appeals. And you really can't look at this in a vacuum. You have to remember the political pressure cooker this is all happening in. This courtroom drama comes right after 44 members of the House of Representatives publicly asked President Tinubu to step in and order Kanu's release. It's a powerful reminder that this isn't just a legal case. It sits right at the intersection of law and politics.
And finally, if you zoom out even further, this isn't just a Nigerian story. People are watching this closely all across the continent. They see it as a major test case. How does a modern, democratic nation balance serious national security charges with the legal process and the rights of a very high-profile and very controversial defendant? The outcome here will be analyzed and debated across Africa for a long time.
So it really all comes down to a tough, fundamental question, and we'd like to hear from you on this. What's your honest take on this situation? When, if ever, does a defendant's behavior in court forfeit their right to be there to hear their own judgment?
We'll keep following this story. Stay subscribed for clearer, deeper analysis from Africa Watch 360. What is your take on this matter? Share your opinion in the comment section. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.